Hey everyone, hope we're having a good week so far. I plan to talk about safety during this video, but I also wanted to provide some follow-up on the previous two cases that I introduced in videos. The one that with the 13-year-old female intensive in-home client, she was having a lot of behaviors. The family was thinking about hospitalization, and I shared with you all how the dad in the situation, who turns out to be not the dad, he is actually the mother's boyfriend, but the mother is actually the grandmother, but she adopted the little girl, so I was quite confused. But anyway, the male figure in the home was referring to calling the people, and we were trying to figure out what that was, and that was his way of saying calling for hospitalization. So since we last talked about her, she has gone into crisis every week since. An interesting thing that my field instructor told me was this past week, the police were called because she was out in the community, showing behaviors, kicking things down, destroying other people's property, things like that. And the police officer made her take her medication. And I thought that was very interesting. The way she phrased it is the police said, if you don't take your meds, then we're going to take you to the hospital. And I don't know if that is something that's going to be effective moving forward because, now are the parents going to have to call the police every time? Or was that like a show of force that if you don't, then these are your repercussions or consequences? So I'll have to keep y'all posted on that as far as that goes. But she continues to show a lot of behaviors. The field instructor wants the family to work towards maybe getting her in a therapeutic foster home for a while or possibly hospitalizations, but she's been hospitalized more than 10 times, but it was in a different state. So it's almost like her clock is restarted now that she's in our state and the rules are different from here in Florida. So that's what's going on with that one. The male client that came in and was asking a lot of intrusive questions for the outpatient therapist that I was shadowing, he canceled all his appointments. Um, and his wife is being seen by another provider, and that provider says that the wife had a very different story and she thought everything was cool in the marital situation, and she's not exactly sure where he was coming from with his point of view. So we'll see how that unfolds. Maybe he'll reschedule. We'll see. He said he was sick, is why he didn't want to come in for his anger management stuff or his couples therapy or anything like that. But he is also the person that I want to talk to about safety. So I live in North Carolina. In North Carolina, it's not unusual to see people walking around with handguns or um, gigantic knives or things like that in their waistband. I remember I was in probably 10th or 11th grade before they stopped making students bring allowing them to have their rifles in the back of their trucks, like in the window on school property. And I know we can not even imagine I can't imagine something like that with the school shootings and the various things that have been going on in recent years. But this is, 10 plus years ago that was occurring. So that's just to set the scene for the safety concern that I had. It's not unusual to have people walking around with, weapons on them in our state. However, this female therapist was with this male client, much larger than her, has a history of military combat, has a history of PTSD, and is being seen for anger management, and came in aggressive tones and conversation with her. And as we were sitting there, starting the initial session, I noticed that he had a knife on his waist, and it was like in a, I don't know what you call it, but it was inside of a, what I would think to say holster for a gun. So it was in something like that for a knife. So it wasn't out, but it was there and it was very large. And I remember thinking to myself, how should I handle this? Should I say something? But he walked past several different individuals to get back there to get the services where we were. So I was like, he went past a lot of different people. And nobody noticed this. And so it was very alarming to me. Um, I ended up getting pulled out of that for a crisis, and it slipped my mind, and I felt so bad about it when I came back because I'm thinking to myself, what if something had happened? that's something that I could have warned her about. I could have sent her an email while she was sitting there. She would have seen it because her screen is there. Something that could have been handled. But it slipped my mind because I was called out to handle or to assist with a crisis. I did tell her um, after the client left, and she was like, "Well, thank you. I'll pay closer attention the next time." And that's something that we'll have to have a conversation about because he should not have a weapon on him inside the building. And there were several people that should have stopped him and made sure that he left that in his car. So that is my safety concern for this week. You know, how would you all have handled that? What would you have said or not said? I'm going to go through and read the safety manual again to see what's there. But yeah, I'm out of time. So you guys let me know what you think.